I'm going to talk today about how you can import and also export plants. People who visit our nursery will realize that we grow and sell more than half of everything that is on the nursery. All the native Scots pines, oak trees, junipers, maples, we produce as bonsai on our nursery. After all, I've been here for 40 years, and over the 40 years we've been growing our own plants. But we also import some plants. So when you see these old pines and junipers, exquisite trees from Japan, they are imported. But we don't import everything. So the reason why trees from abroad are not so easy to bring in is because there are all sorts of rules and regulations which control the import and export of plants. I'm often annoyed when people boast and tell their friends, oh, I smuggled a tree back from Japan, I put a small bonsai in my suitcase. I know some people who are into shohin and they say, oh, I brought 9 or 10 little shohin bonsai in my suitcase and I got away with it, and they have a good laugh. Well, I think that is bad because you are actually committing a crime. I'm not saying it out of spite or anything, but it is a serious issue. People don't realize how serious the business is when you break the rules. Rules are always there for a good reason, and when you break the rules, you're committing a crime. And if you do get caught, you can be fined or put in jail. I certainly know that in America and Australia, they have extremely rigorous and strict rules. I remember one of our friends, when we went to Taiwan, he forgot to remove the banana from his hand luggage, and he was caught and he was fined, I think $100 US dollars for doing that. In America, you can't even bring in seeds, same with Australia, seeds or cuttings. So you've got to be very, very careful. Now, the reason why this is so is because plants and animals, for that matter, are carriers of pests and diseases. And if they are brought in without being checked that they are free of pest and disease, you can spread disease into your country. I don't need to tell you too much about this because there's a lot of information on the internet these days. I'm now going to my computer and show you what you can find on the internet. So let me show you what I Googled. I put on Google why you mustn't smuggle plants into a country. And there were lots and lots of pages of results. And one very good site that I came across is my favorite Royal Horticultural Society website, and they have an extensive site about importing and exporting plants. I do urge you to look at it because it's extremely well prepared and extremely well written. So if you go on the site, which I did, you will see that is it, the RHS website, and it's about importing and exporting plants. As I say, it is such a lovely site that you mustn't miss it. And it goes through all the reasons why you have to go through the proper channels. The main thing, again, as I said in my earlier introduction, is that the reason for these controls is because plants and animals are possible carriers of all sorts of diseases, and you don't want pests and diseases which you don't get in your own country. So if you bring in plants which are not checked for being free of pests and disease, you could be introducing pests and diseases from abroad inadvertently. I remember my friend Anthony in Bermuda was telling me how many years ago a type of juniper was brought in from, I think, California, and it wiped out millions of the native junipers in Bermuda. So that is an instance. And of course, you've heard of all these other pests and diseases, all sorts of oak disease, rhododendron disease, and of course insects like the longhorn beetle, which came with packing cases. These sort of inadvertent mistakes that people make. And if you smuggle plants in, you could be introducing pests and disease. So I urge you to look at this and study why it is important to follow the rules. When we look at all these lovely wisteria trees and maple trees, they are all plants that came originally from the Far East, from China and Japan. If you go through the internet, you will soon discover that back in the 16th century, that means more than 500 years ago, European plant hunters, when they discovered that you could sail abroad and find a brand new world, a completely different world from what you have in Europe, they were mesmerized by all these different plants that existed. So it was quite common for them to bring these plants in. So plant hunting went on from the 16th, 17th and 18th century. That was the heyday of plant collecting, not just from the UK, but in Europe. There were German plant collectors, the Dutch, and all sorts of European botanical experts went abroad, and they were mesmerized by the variety and wealth of plants that you found abroad. So we can't blame them for it, because in those days, going abroad to discover a new world where plants are so different was absolutely exciting. I wish I had lived in those days, but that is history. We are not in those days. Now let me show you the facilities that we have for importing our plants. As I told you, importing plants is a very, very tricky process. I'm reminded of our benches here. When you go to Japan, there are only certain nurseries that are allowed to export plants to Europe. And the reason why they are so tightly controlled is because they have to abide by the requirements of the countries that bring the plants in. Now, if you look at these facilities, we have lots of quarantine. This entire greenhouse is a quarantine greenhouse. And nowadays we use this large double tunnel for our quarantine. And you can see the lengths to which we have the quarantine facilities. Now, this tunnel, of course, now all the plants are released from quarantine, so it's not closed, but it's completely enclosed. And you will see that even the doors are made of this fine gauze or netting. And not only is it a special door, it is a double-sided door. Let me show you the double-sided door. I'm holding the camera while walking around. So there is one door there. Can you see? And then there is a second door. It's a double door. So when you enter that quarantine house, you have to enter a trap door. You have to enter this door and then go into this door, close the door behind you, and then go into the house through the second door. And that is how the plants are quarantined. As I said to you, all the plants are released from quarantine now, so I can't open all the doors. But they remain in here for 3, sometimes 4 months. And the inspectors from the ministry come and check the plants to check that there are no strange pests and diseases. Certain trees are allowed into this country, and they don't have to be in quarantine as long as they are clean. Maples, wisterias, most of the deciduous trees are like that. But certain trees, like the junipers and plants, they are called the derogated species. Derogated means that it's an exception to the rule. Normally they are banned from coming into Europe or into the UK, but provided they are kept in quarantine and checked to be free from disease, you can then bring them in. They go to the extent of putting tags on it, like tags on animals. So should this plant be diseased, they can check it back to the source. You can check it back to the nursery that grew that tree so that they can take appropriate measures. Now this is the importing side. When they come here, the inspectors come here once or twice a month, and they make certainly 3, 4, 5 or 6 visits to check the trees are clean and free of disease and pests before they can be released. This is what happens at this end. What happens at the other end in the exporting country? In the exporting country, certain nurseries are approved, and some nurseries which don't meet the plant requirements, plant health requirements, are not approved. So the approved nurseries are the ones that are allowed to export plants abroad. And those special nurseries have to follow certain rules, and one of the rules, for instance, is that the plants have to be grown on benches, at least I think 60 centimeters above the ground, so that the trees are not in touch with the earth, because when it touches the ground, all sorts of nematodes can get in. So that is one condition. And as far as Japan is concerned, I know that the plants have to be grown and checked for 2 years. And each year there are 6 inspections during the growing season. That means before they leave Japan, they will have been inspected 12 times. So can you imagine the cost which is added to a plant? So when you see a plant in China or Japan which costs, say, $10, and when you see it sold for many, many times more in the UK, by the time it leaves the country of origin, it will have been checked 12 times. Who pays for the cost? The grower has to pay for the inspectors to check the plants. So you realize what a complicated process this is. This is the procedure we have to follow when we import plants from Japan and China. But when it comes to exporting, that's a completely different matter altogether. I had the experience in the last 4 or 5 months of trying to export some junipers to Bermuda. You must be wondering why I did that. My staff have told me that I have been a fool to offer to do this. I did it not for commercial reasons. I did it because I wanted to help my friend Anthony, because they cannot get junipers in Bermuda, and the junipers I was exporting had to be just 2-year-old cuttings, and anything older than that is not permitted. So we can't send these very nice imported junipers that we get from Japan. We had to export the cuttings that we produce, and the cuttings we produce are the juniper procumbens. And that procedure, I tell you not, it took me from March to August to get it sorted out. We had so many hurdles along the way. I kid you not. I don't want to show you the paperwork, but the emails alone occupied me hours and hours, several days and weeks. Emails back and forth between Bermuda plant health authorities and the UK plant health authorities. And finally, this is a box of 70 cuttings that we have finally managed to get approved. So this was a bitter experience, a long, long experience, just to send 70 small juniper cuttings to Bermuda. And I'm not sure if I will want to do it again, because it has taken us so much time, effort and trouble to do it, and it is very complicated. So for those of you who have been trying to smuggle plants in, please do not do it, because it is a dangerous practice. You could be inadvertently introducing pests and diseases which are not known in the country, and you could be arrested as well. to end this video, let me show you the final results of my 5 months of work trying to organize the procedures. And I'll tell you why it took so long, because every time we came across a problem, we had to go to our plant health authorities and ask them, why is this so? Why is that so? And it is ever so complicated. Let me show you some of the paperwork to give you. Just to give you a flavor of what is involved in exporting plants, let me show you some of the correspondence that we had with the Bermudan plant health authorities. We sent them our nematode tests, which were conducted by the UK authorities, and they came back to us with all these different requirements saying what should be done and how it should be done. And there were literally 4 pages of this. I'm just showing you to you on my computer. There are pages and pages of this. Now let me switch to something else. So here we have Anthony. You will probably recognize Anthony from previous videos. And what is he doing here? He is packing some plants for export. That means we are exporting these tiny junipers to Bermuda.
That's right.
And it is not easy. I have spent months, the last 5 months, understanding how their system works, because it has to be checked, and the amount of testing we've done, our plant inspector has been already 3 times. He's coming one final time tomorrow to issue the phyto certificate. And this is what is happening. These are little procumbens junipers, young cuttings that we grow here, and they have to be shaken. Can you show one of the plants, please? Look at it. We've taken all the soil off. Every bit of soil is taken off. Can you hold it up so that we can see? So no soil remains. We've shaken all the soil off. And this soil was proved free of nematodes. That type of nematodes are not allowed.
Yes.
So it's completely free.
That's right. So plants are shaken off and they're washed off, and then we're going to wrap them up in
Inert material.
in a pumice.
Pumice or perlag or whatever you call
Or
it,
a
completely
perlite,
inert.
And we're going to wrap it in paper towel. And we're going to bag it up. But what's important is, obviously the testing for import and export, particularly for Bermuda, and that is, as we all know, there are good
Nematodes and bad
nematodes and bad nematodes and ugly nematodes.
Yes.
Plant parasitic
Parasites,
nematodes. Yep, they're they can cause damage to the root system, but the good ones, good nematodes, they're good for fighting thrips, weevils, slugs, bugs.
So these have all been certified clear now.
So these are clear of bad nematodes. Yes.
And then they're going to be packed in this material, inert material, kept moist, and hopefully it will be shipped by air. He's taking it by air, and it has to be examined by the Bermudan plant health authorities.
Yes.
They have been notified. They've been liaising with the UK plant health authorities to prove that everything has been done correctly, and that is the end of a very, very long process.
And it's important to know that it is important that we respect the
laws,
importation laws of each country, or each state, as it may be. But this goes back to 1943. Bermuda had 3 million.
Was it?
Cedar trees.
Native cedar, which I've seen, Bermudan cedar.
Juniper bermudiana. 3 million on a 21 square mile island.
Oh.
And unfortunately, a juniper was imported in from California with juniper scale, and that infected 95% of the island's trees.
Oh.
And we lost them over 10 years. So from 3 million.
Did it affect any other species? Do you know?
Not that we're aware of, no. Not what's documented, just the
Bermudan cedar.
the juniper bermudiana. So with that in mind, the tree has had some recovery. So we've got to be careful what we bring into the island.
And when I was in Bermuda, you were telling us the story of the lionfish, isn't it? That was brought in as an aquarium fish, and some a local hobbyist released it into the sea, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've migrated over from Florida as well, and
Oh.
they have a huge impact to the ecosystem of the reefs. You know, preying on the small fish and all the fry. So there's a great effort to cull those lionfish. We have lionfish tournaments.
Because they're not native to Bermuda.
No, they're not. No, they're invasive to the reefs of Bermuda, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that they were very good to eat.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
All right. So hopefully what I will be telling you or have told you in the video will make you realize how important it is to follow the rules for plant health of each particular country. So don't try and smuggle plants into your country without permission, because you're breaking the law, and if you were in countries like Australia and United States, you can be put in jail. So beware, you're breaking the rules. So good luck. We've done everything properly,
Yes, thank
and
you, Peter.
you will see these grow into big plants for your bonsai creations.
Yes, please, and many thanks for you and your staff's help.
Okay, great.